So, Mr. Steinberg,
Yes, I request 2 additional minutes.
granted without objection.
Okay, thank you. And I note for my colleagues in town meeting that I don't see a clock where I'm sitting. I'll do my best. The Select Board supports the budget as was originally proposed 5-0, and that includes the Economic Development Director. I need to start by just commenting from my perspective of having been on the Finance Committee for 8 years. And during those 8 years in the Finance Committee and the Finance Committee before and since, has always had to focus very hard on questions of sound financial management and the expenditure side of the budget. In the expenditure side of the budget, we often heard about needs both for continuing current programs and many unmet needs, including some that we talked about on Monday night, adequate funding for LSSC, funding for library, funding for human services, and many other unmet needs. The frustration that I confronted in those 8 years on the Finance Committee is that we were dealing with the expense side of the budget, and I always felt that the solution came out of the revenue side of the budget. One of the reasons that I decided to run for Select Board last year was in order to be involved in a body that could address the revenue side, and that is one of the 3 things that was very much on the minds of the Select Board this year. Another thing that was on the minds of the Select Board is housing needs and the needs for making sure that we have an affordable and diverse community. As long as we have taxation that is heavily dependent upon residential property, it increases the taxation burden on residential property. And one of the strategies that very much can be a part of trying to create more affordable housing is to reduce some of that pressure by looking at some of the more development within the commercial side. And then I think that we're all as a community always concerned about employment opportunities. This discussion of an economic development director is not new. I've heard this discussion many times. I went back to one of my old Finance Committee processes of 2009, which happened during 2008, and I looked at the town manager's budget for that year, and there was discussion about what an economic development director, and it was the town manager couldn't recommend it at the time. Last year on the budget, the economic development director was the #1 unfunded budget need. So this has been in discussion for a long period of time as an identified need, and the Select Board considered that as we looked at the town making recommendations for goals for the town manager for the current year and the Select Board guidelines for the development of the town manager's budget, which I referenced in my remarks the other night. So those documents very much influenced the decision to come forward with a recommendation for an economic development director, and I think the Select Board was unanimous in its being pleased that we have finally made that move in that direction. Those of you who have been following it and follow our meetings would know that we as Select Board were presented with a draft of the job description. We looked at the draft of the job description, commented on it. The job description has been developed and is being circulated. And it talks about a person who's going to work with the town manager, is going to have the skills to reach out to businesses and to talk to businesses, identify businesses that are considering location within Amherst, and to try and then serve as a liaison between the businesses and town committees and staff to try and encourage many of those businesses that have frequently gone to our neighboring communities to consider locations within Amherst. This is not a new discussion. As noted, not only has it been in budget discussions for many years, but this is consistent with the town gown recommendation, as has been previously noted, and it is consistent with the master plan. And it is not something that is merely focusing on downtown. This is a town-wide position, and it would be to address looking for business opportunities that could find a location throughout the town. So with that, I would just conclude by saying that if we delay in creating the position further, we risk just losing more opportunities. So thank you.